Porsche perfected the 911 decades ago, or at least that's what everyone thought. Then, Singer showed up, took a forgotten 964, tore it down to bare metal, and rebuilt it into something so precise, so beautiful, and so obsessively engineered that even Porsche started taking notes. Cars that cost upwards of $500,000. Cars with waiting lists measured in years, not months or even weeks. Cars that make grown men weep when they hear the engine fire up. This is how Singer makes the impossible possible, and why nothing else in the automotive world even comes close. Because every Singer starts the same way, as somebody's old Porsche that's seen better days. The typical donor car is a 1989 era 964, often the all-wheel drive C4 variant, and the condition varies wildly. Some are particularly nice, others are decidedly not so nice. The only hard requirement is no heavy accident damage. Structural integrity matters when you're about to spend thousands of hours rebuilding something. Everything else, Singer can handle it. Rust, wear, neglect, 3 decades of someone using it as an actual car, yeah, that's all fixable. But here's the thing, these cars are filthy. 30 years of oil and muck and leaves and things you don't want to think about have accumulated in every crevice. So the initial disassembly happens off-site because it's just that dirty. Everything gets media blasted to remove contaminants, stripped down to bare metal, and only then shipped to the main facility for reassembly. It's an extremely dirty process, but it's the only way to start with a truly clean slate. Which brings us to what happens when those bare, blasted components finally arrive at Singer's California facility. Now, if you walk into the parts department, you'll see racks filled with components in various stages of restoration. Take something as mundane as a wishbone, a suspension arm that connects the wheel to the chassis. In its original state, it looks like it was dredged from a swamp, caked in grime, corroded, and barely recognizable. Singer's process is borderline religious. Every original part is inspected, cleaned, crack tested, and coated. The before and after transformation is shocking. From something that looks like it belongs in a scrapyard to a component that looks better than it did rolling off the production line in 1989, and this isn't unusual. This is standard procedure for every single part that can be salvaged. Currently, these parts are stored on racks throughout the facility, but there are plans to formalize everything. A wall will be built around the entire parts department, racks will go higher, storage will be more organized. They're going through the permitting process now, which tells you something about Singer's growth trajectory. They're not slowing down. The sub-assembly work is where you see the philosophy in action. Technicians carefully build up components like trailing arms, checking everything meticulously. New bushings, new bearings, new fasteners. The only thing original is the main structural component. Everything else is new, better, engineered to tighter tolerances than Porsche used in the 80s. These sub-assemblies sit ready to be applied to the car at the exact right moment in the build process. It's methodical, painstaking, and completely necessary, because while Singer perfects what's underneath, the real visual transformation happens in an entirely new part of the operation. Now, until recently, all Singers were painted by a third party. That's changed. The new facility has space for an in-house paint shop, and the car sitting in the booth during this tour is the very first to be painted on site. That's a massive deal because it gives Singer complete control over one of the most critical aspects of the build. Here's what most people don't understand. Painting a car is the easy part. Getting a perfect surface, well, that takes a ridiculous amount of time. These cars are stripped to bare chassis. Carbon fiber bodies are fitted, but those carbon panels don't come perfect. They're deliberately oversized because the only way to achieve absolutely perfect panel gaps is to create them entirely by hand. Craftsmen spend hours, sometimes days, fitting each panel across the car. The tolerance is 0. It has to be perfect, and it can't be automated because every car is slightly different. Every panel requires individual attention. Carbon fiber itself presents unique challenges. It can have pinholes or bumps that would be acceptable in motorsports where weight and function matter more than cosmetic perfection, but Singer makes it perfect, all by hand, because any surface imperfection will come right through the paint. Once that perfect surface is created, the actual painting becomes relatively straightforward, but getting there, well, that's where the magic happens. And if you think the exterior demands obsessive attention to detail, wait until you see what happens inside the car. Step into Singer's interior customization department and you realize these people have a problem. A beautiful, expensive, completely voluntary problem with materials and craftsmanship. Every interior is produced entirely on-site by Singer's expert craftsmen and craftswomen. All the leather work is done in-house, which gives clients an almost dizzying array of options. They can spend days or months finalizing specifications, and they often come back and change their minds, which Singer accommodates because when somebody's spending $500,000 on a car, you let them be particular. The woven leather work is where things get genuinely artistic. Custom weaves are designed collaboratively between the client and Singer's team. You choose colors, then create mock-ups of color combinations to see how they interact. Some designs are meant to look like tartan or fabric from a distance, but up close, they reveal themselves as woven leather. Some are deliberately fabric-like. Others are bold stripes. The possibilities aren't quite infinite, but they're close enough to make decision-making genuinely difficult. And make no mistake, the people doing this work are true craftsmen. This isn't something you learn in a few months, it takes years of muscle memory and expertise to understand how leather works. Different leathers have different thickness, stretch differently, behave differently under tension. Every project is essentially bespoke, requiring problem solving and adaptation. This kind of craftsmanship, this level of hand-built precision, becomes even more impressive when you see how it all comes together during final assembly. What Singer calls general assembly is really the reassembly of the car, and it's here that you see how complex these builds actually are. It starts with a painted shell that already has the headliner and sound deadening installed. From there, sub-assemblies and components are attached progressively as the car does a loop around the facility through various stages. Wire harnesses go in first because everything else stacks on top of them. Sound deadening goes under the floor, then multiple systems get installed simultaneously, which is where things get interesting. Because every car is slightly different, groups of technicians stand around discussing installation sequences because the upholstery team and the electronics team need to coordinate. They have to battle some things around, move components to make room for others. Special customer wishes for unusual materials or finishes add complexity. Different areas of expertise converge at the same time, all trying to work on the same small space. This isn't a new car factory where every vehicle rolls down the line in identical fashion. These are all a little different, which means constant problem solving and adaptation. It's organized chaos guided by deep experience. Underneath all the beautiful carbon and leather is something that's still fundamentally a 911, just executed at a level Porsche never attempted in the 80s and 90s. Singer fits new springs and dampeners, replaces all the bushings, and spends countless hours developing the perfect bushing durometers, the specific hardness that balances compliance and control. They test different bearings, tune dampers and springs, and then test and tune and develop over time until they achieve what they're after: the perfect hot rod. The result drives better than any original 911 from that period. It's more controlled, more communicative, more confidence-inspiring. It's what those cars always wanted to be, but couldn't quite achieve with the constraints of mass production and 1980s technology. Singer removes those constraints and asks, what if we built this with unlimited time and modern knowledge? In the delivery area sit completed cars ready to ship to customers. Some are DLS models built in the UK that have been unwrapped at the Singer facility for US-bound customers. Often, clients come to the California facility to drive their cars around the area before shipping them to their final destination. It's a pilgrimage, a chance to experience the car in the place where it was reborn. And it's a moment that validates everything. The years of waiting, the hundreds of decisions about leather and paint and mechanical specifications, the enormous financial commitment. When someone fires up their Singer for the first time and hears that engine, sees that paint, feels that steering weight, it all makes sense. But Singer isn't content to just perfect what they've already mastered, they're already pushing into new territory. The Turbo project represents Singer's next evolution, taking the already extreme Singer formula and applying it to turbocharged 911s. The first 3 turbo restorations began this year and will be built at the California facility. They already have over 200 orders, which tells you everything about demand for what Singer creates. People aren't just buying cars, they're buying into a philosophy of automotive perfection that refuses to compromise, refuses to cut corners, refuses to accept good enough when perfect is theoretically possible. Which raises the bigger question: what does all of this actually mean? Here's what Singer actually sells: the belief that perfection is achievable if you're willing to pay for it, in time, money, and obsessive attention to detail. They took a car Porsche built by the tens of thousands and turned it into something so refined, so meticulously executed, that only a couple dozen get finished each year. They've proven that hand-built craftsmanship still has a place in a world of automated assembly lines and cost optimizations. They've shown that people will pay extraordinary amounts of money for objects made with genuine care and expertise. Every panel gap measured by hand, every bushing durometer tested and refined, every stitch in the leather laid with years of muscle memory, every surface prepared to a standard that makes painting almost anticlimactic. It's borderline irrational, it's definitely excessive, and it's absolutely magnificent. Porsche perfected the 911 decades ago. Singer looked at that perfection and said, "We can do better." The terrifying thing is they were right.